Next, I request Colonel Anurag Avasthi, VP IESA, to moderate the panel on international cooperation and collaborations towards expanding semiconductor manufacturing footprint. Over to you, sir.
Rather late in the day, ladies and gentlemen, sorry we are running exactly 33 minutes delayed. But be that as it may, I will be very, very crisp, fast, and fastidious in completing this panel discussion. Very important international panel discussion on international collaborations. I will first call upon Mary Thornton, Vice President, Global Policy, SIA. She's the Vice President for Global Policy, where she directs SIA's policy agenda for international competitiveness, trade, export control, supply chain, global market research, and everything. She represents ISA and most of its members worldwide. Mary, can I kindly request you to kindly come on stage? Thank you. Followed by her, I would request Jennifer Makecha, Chairperson, Taiwan Chamber of Industry and Commerce. She's the chairperson since 2015. She has on the committee of the Asia Pacific Industrial Cooperation, APAC Taiwan, and Asian Community News Network Advisory Board. Jennifer, may I kindly request you to come up on stage? Mr. Toshihiro Mizutani Toshihiro-san, thank God you're the only saving grace amongst these 4 erudite ladies that I've got in the panel, so I feel a little more secure seeing you on the stage with me. Director General Jetro Bengaluru, welcome. Rupa Thakrar Bagun, she's the Market Manager, South India, and Business Sweden Ex-Trade Commissioner of South Africa. Rupa has 15 years of international business development and market energy experience. Welcome, Rupa. And saving the best for the last, Amia Mehra from the United States India Strategic Forum. Amia had joined USISPF as an Associate Director for Digital Economy and TMT, and she's a well-known face amongst most of the Indo-US relationship dialogues in Delhi. I have a spectacle, a pair of spectacles. Oh, I pinched it from somebody. All right. Firstly, welcome to the panel, and the clock starts now because I've been told it's 37 minutes to the T, so I will keep it absolutely as time on target is 37 minutes and not bore anybody beyond that. All right. Some opening remarks, Mary, from you to start with.
Well, thank you, Anurag, and thanks to IESA or IESA. That's been a source of some debate among those of us attending here. Thanks for the invitation. It's a real honor to be here. This is my first time in India, so it's a real pleasure to be here for the IESA Summit. I've really been struck by the sense of energy, excitement, and commitment to grow India's role in the semiconductor supply chain, and the fact that you are all here listening to this panel instead of at dinner is a testament to that, so thank you. I'm looking forward to talking more on this panel about how industry and government can work together to ensure India's promise can be realized. But first, I wanted to just take an opportunity to introduce the Semiconductor Industry Association to the audience and the work we do in the US and really around the world to advocate for policies that support the growth of our industry. SIA is a small but mighty trade association based in Washington, D.C. We represent 99% of the US semiconductor industry and nearly 2/3 of the global chip ecosystem. I think you heard that earlier today from my boss when he spoke. We were founded back in 1977 by some of the semiconductor industry pioneers, and we've been the voice of the semiconductor industry in the US ever since. Our charter as an association is really to advocate for government policies in the US and around the world that help our industry grow and unite companies in our industry around common challenges and common solutions. In DC, our team works with the US Congress, with the many departments in the executive branch to encourage those policies and programs, including things like the US CHIPS Act, that fuel innovation, propel business, and drive international competition. So I lead the global policy work at ISIA, as you mentioned. So my team and I spend a lot of time traveling around the world, meeting with foreign governments to advocate for policies that support our company's global operations or their expansion plans. And that's one of the reasons why SIA is out here this week. The US and Indian governments, as has been noted, have identified developing a trusted supply chain for semiconductors as a strategic focus in their bilateral relationship. And so we're actively engaging with both governments and with our member companies to shape that cooperative agenda. We've had great meetings this week, including with a number of senior government officials in Delhi. And it's clear that the central government, all the way up to the top, is very focused and committed to growing our sector here and putting significant incentives on the table to drive the vision forward. And of course, I'm talking about the Semicon industry program and PLI. And it's also clear that India's state-level governments share that commitment at the central level to position India to take advantage of this global supply chain rebalancing that we're all talking about. So at SIA, we really look forward to being working with our partners here in India to make the country a stronger link in our supply chains. And I'll stop there and look forward to the discussion. Thanks.
Perfect. So thanks, Mary. Thanks for that introduction and telling the entire audience as to what the SIA is up to, what is its mandate, and so on and so forth. So I will segue down from the United States to the Nordic countries. Rupa, a lot of people may not know, but Business Sweden, which is an integral part of the Embassy of Sweden in India, is nearly 40 countries, and it's a unique model. It's a very unique model owned by the public, that is the state, and the industry. Now, if this be the case, could you tell us a little more about the Business Sweden model as to how it works and how it came about?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this panel, Anurag. I appreciate it. So as you mentioned, Business Sweden, that stands for the Swedish Trade and Invest Council, we are indeed a very unique organization. And what makes us very unique is the fact that we are partly owned by the Swedish industries and partly owned by the Swedish state. And our core mandate is to help Swedish companies grow international sales and to help global companies to invest and expand in Sweden. So we do this by having 40+ offices around the world. And we look for collaboration within different sectors and different industries. And my background is, I've been with Business Sweden for most of my career, and I just moved from South Africa to India. I just started 2 weeks ago, so I'm very new here, very excited to learn more about India. But having said that, I would like to point out that our office in India is actually one of the biggest offices around the world. So that shows you that, it's one of the most important markets for us right now. And how we work in emerging markets and what makes us very successful is that we work under the Team Sweden umbrella. And with that, we mean that we work very closely with the Swedish Embassy, the Swedish Center for Innovation and Research. We work with, Swedish export credit companies like EKN, SEK, and Swedfund, and then of course the Swedish companies. So in order to be competitive and to succeed on foreign markets and specifically emerging markets, we work together as one Team Sweden team. So we are here to stay. We have 2 offices right now, one in New Delhi, one in Bangalore that I'm heading up, and there will be more offices in the future for sure.
Thanks, Rupa. I was very intrigued meeting Cecilia, your Investment and Trade Commissioner in India the other day in Delhi. I think this model is an outstanding model which, a lot of people can replicate as a public-private partnership model to, run the system. So let me segue from there back to Taiwan, the flavor of the season. Jennifer, we all know Taiwan is the chip powerhouse of the world with a large footprint of fabrication facilities, display, cutting-edge incubation centers, what have you. As chairperson of the Taiwan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, how do you foresee Indo-Taiwan collaboration in the future?
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank you to IESA to invite me for today's platform. Actually, it's my great honor because, as you know, We are the Taiwanese only Chamber of Commerce in India, and we have in Bombay, Delhi, and in Chennai and Bangalore. And today, I would like to talk more about the Taiwan strength here. As you know, Taiwan is the home to the most complete semiconductor industry clusters and specializations in the world. And it has the world-class companies in all over the subfields in the semiconductor industry. So for your information, the semiconductor companies operating in Taiwan, 30%, I would say 80% are into IC designing, and 5% in IC manufacturing, and 15% in the testing and packaging this way. And then so Taiwan has built a comprehensive ecosystem for its domestic semiconductor industry. So how to work, it lies on the basically the expansion of collaboration between Taiwan and the global partners. But I would say that the strengthening of such an ecosystem will also support the the needs of the semiconductor industry in other countries over the world, and can also form a closer collaboration for the whole the world, globally. So now, as you know, India, which is the most populous countries in the world, and also I would say now is the 5th largest. I know that she said the 3rd largest in 2027. Actually, so I would say that India's semiconductor industry is expected to grow with the demand for the growing like smartphones, and I would say like automotive components, and also computing and data storage, etc. So with an anticipated market size and the jobs here in India, so I think the India semiconductor industry is supposed to play a very key important role in enhancing the global semiconductor value chain. So just make a conclusion. So I think Taiwan will definitely be the natural partner for India's renewed endeavors to build how do I say, an effective semiconductor industry ecosystem. Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer. Let me come down to you, Ameya, now. You're part of the United States-India Strategic Forum in Delhi, and we are all aware that US ISPF is playing a sterling role in steering policy metrics in India, including the ISET, what the JSMEO also mentioned, as well as, it was mentioned today in the morning session in the inaugural. Now, how do you propose in US ISPF to take this critical initiative forward?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Before I answer your question, I'd like to briefly introduce US ISPF, which stands for the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. We're an industry association, a not-for-profit independent organization formed in 2017. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., with a presence across the US and India, in Mumbai and Delhi. I think our core mandate is to strengthen the US-India partnership, and a key driver of that partnership right now is technology partnership. Just broadly to provide some context on ISET as well, events that have taken place geopolitically, plus the global focus on building trusted and resilient supply chains, have created a tremendous opportunity for India. Against this background, US and India have come together to collaborate under the ISET initiative, which stands for the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technology, and they're focusing under that initiative on building the future of technology together, to building collaborative ecosystems, focusing specifically on AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity, and of course semiconductors, including building resilient supply chains in semiconductors and promoting semiconductor skilling. As an industry body focused on the US-India relationship, what we're hoping to do is facilitate these partnerships. Of course, it's a government and industry play, and where we come in is we're hoping to try and keep expanding the scope of the partnership. For example, and this could be in various ways. For instance, we're working with some members to facilitate a collaboration between government agencies and industry to to enable skilling of faculty so that the semiconductor talent in India is industry ready. It could also mean looking at the scope and identifying new areas of collaboration, moving beyond specific projects identified under ISET and looking at it from a policy perspective or also from a futuristic perspective of what else could we focus on. As the Joint Secretary had mentioned, it could be critical minerals, it could be the inclusion of India in global value chains. The focus broadly is to build out the ecosystem in India, and as the Honorable Minister had mentioned at Davos, the focus is on manufacturing and design, so the ecosystem at large, and that's what we're trying to push.
Wonderful, wonderful. So since all the ladies have spoken, Toshihiro-san, now it's time for us to speak. All the four ladies have spoken. Okay. So how do you see the role of JETRO in the overall Indo-Japan industry collaborations of the future?
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Mizutani Toshihiro. I come from Japan. Let me introduce briefly about our organization. JETRO, Japan External Trade Organization, is funded by METI, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. So we are staff of Japanese government-related organization. So not government itself, but kind of a half private, kind of half government. So it's a very unique organization, agencies. And in the world, we have about 70 countries office. And here in India, we have 5 offices, including New Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Ahmedabad, and Bengaluru. Bengaluru is one of the newest offices here in India. And speaking about Japanese companies' activities, main field here in India is the first one is manufacturing. Manufacturing, especially automotive sector, including a two-wheeler, four-wheeler. And the second one is Japan and India technological innovation creation. Those two sectors we are mainly supporting Japanese companies' activities in India. And currently, Toyota or Honda, Maruti Suzuki, such big companies are leading expansion of investment to, especially in automotive sector. Many Japanese companies are mainly focusing on the manufacturing sector, including machine tool industry as well. Actually, till yesterday, there is a very big exhibition called MTEX forming, and we, JETRO, organized about 12 companies' booth pavilion. And so that now JETRO is supporting those kind of a manufacturing activity. And speaking about semiconductor industry, last year, June, USA's Micron Technology just announced the set up a factory in Gujarat states. And that kind of make a trigger for more multinational companies to expand the business in semiconductor industry as well. And for Japanese companies, sectors like semiconductor manufacturing equipment, or component parts manufacturing, or material manufacturing, maintenance services, and precision products, advanced logistics. Such kind of sectors, now Japanese companies are more focusing on the searching for the possibility to expand the business here in India. And actually, early this month, there is a very big event in Gujarat state, Ahmedabad, Vibrant Gujarat. JETRO organized a very big business delegation from Japan to India. About 60 members participated, and JETRO supporting such kind of activities as a government sector, and then wanna, how can I say, promote some expansion on the business in a semiconductor field as well.
Thank you very much. So Mary, let me get back to you now on a little, geopolitical note, and you're aware that semiconductors is clearly viewed as a strategic industry now all over the world. And the United States has recently passed the CHIPS Act last year and has made some very key announcements. Here, as we speak, in India, we are making a large progress to develop this industry domestically. What do you think is the role of governments in facilitating this growth in this industry, so to say, and the opportunity of India in this regard?
Well, thanks for the question, Anurag. I think governments have a huge role to play. As we spent a lot of time in SIA over the past several years sort of pushing our government to put some skin in the game, as we looked across the globe and saw many other governments rolling out incentive programs to support semiconductor manufacturing and development, in other countries. And so the CHIPS Act was and is a great success. And as you mentioned, at the end of last year and early this year, the U.S. Commerce Department has made a couple of key announcements. I think BAE Systems and Microchip, were both awarded grants. We didn't realize at the time the kind of, I guess, global race that the CHIPS Act would kind of kick off. And so we're seeing governments all across the world putting together comprehensive national semiconductor strategies and really trying to position themselves as the next destination of choice for that next design investment, that next ATP investment, that next fab investment. So I really want to underscore again, and I mentioned this in my opening remarks, that India is really stepping up to the plate here. They've put a really strong value proposition on the table. One of the first governments to really just put a lot of money on the table, this $10 billion in the Semicon India program to attract investment here. And the top-down commitment of the central government is just really key, and that's what it's going to take. But I will say, and this has come up in a lot of the conversations that we've been having in India and in Delhi earlier this week, it's going to take more than just incentives to really up-level that value proposition. I think we really encourage the Indian government to look at what is the broader enabling policy framework that will support the broader ecosystem, because that's what it's going to take to really start to see more projects coming, more proposals coming, more investments coming in. And that means taking a systemic look at the policies in place, IP protections in place, what kind of trade and customs policies do investors need to navigate? Because when companies are deciding where to put that next investment, it's trade regulations, it's IP policies, the overall ease of doing business that tips the balance. So I'll leave it at that.
So thanks. There's some key points which you've made. I think worth ruminating for sure. So Rupa, there is a large amount of semiconductor ecosystem in Sweden, which is based on silicon carbide. In addition, you have a large amount of startups in the hardware space in Sweden. So in that case, do you think there's a prospective area of Indo-Sweden collaboration in these two basic spheres of silicon carbide and hardware startups?
Absolutely, and let me just give you a little bit of background and then get into the partnership itself. So the Swedish semiconductor ecosystem is diverse and innovative with high potential. Specifically, the core industries consist of high-tech companies focused on different parts of the value chain: IC design, IDMs, EDA, and core IP, and so on. Many of these being leading companies in their segment and having great growth potential. The primary driver for holistic semiconductor ecosystem in Sweden is the presence of strong end-user industries with leading companies across automotive, information communication technology, industrial technologies, and life science verticals. many of these end user companies have also developed their in-house semiconductor competencies over time, majorly in the chip design area. One such example is the ICT company Ericsson that you may know of. So, on the innovation side of it, Sweden houses a world-class R&D and testbed environment with regional clusters that conduct research at the highest level in universities including Uppsala University, Linköping University, Lund University, and so on. And most of the high-tech semiconductor companies are born from these universities. So this is one area of collaboration that we have in mind, as of how can these high-tech companies accelerate India's plan of setting up semicon manufacturing via technology transfer, R&D collaboration, or joint ventures. Another area where Sweden has a strong foothold is in the end manufacturing capabilities and competencies within the compound semiconductor materials, e.g. GaN and SiC. So this is the second area where we believe India and Sweden has good synergies, and Sweden can support India in building compound semiconductor capability in the country. So to answer your question, to work on this agenda, Business Sweden has already inaugurated a dedicated platform to boost cross-country collaboration between India and Sweden. The platform is called India-Sweden Semiconductor Platform, and it was launched in October last year. From the Indian side, we had the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology at the inauguration, and from Sweden, we had the Ministry of Business, Industry and Innovation. We also had the Swedish ambassador to India, we had the Swedish Trade Commissioner to India, we had IESA, and academia and industry stakeholders from both the countries. And I really want to mention that through this platform, that is not that old, we have already connected 7 Swedish companies to Indian companies as part of dedicated workshops. In fact, we have a handful of companies here today as well, and we have a few initiative plans for 2024, where we are also planning to bring a delegation from Sweden with semiconductor companies in October, November.
Great, thank you. Just for the audience, the IESA Europe chapter is based out of Stockholm. Sanjeev is here, he's flown in all the way from Stockholm. He will be speaking to all of you tomorrow morning. So let me get back to you, Jennifer, now. Back to Taiwan, as to what are the avenues and the kind of market segments that the Taiwanese ecosystem looks in the Indian perspective. Is there a way to leverage these demand-supply, metrics at an industry level to create a viable model?
Okay, so if you see that, I just speak about a few companies which which are in these areas in India now, which is, as you know, Acer, Asus, and Foxconn, in smartphones, and they are also here today. And also like Kokoro, the latest one, who is already set up a factory in Maharashtra. And also, I believe the new will be coming in, which will be in healthcare area. So if you see all these market segments, I would say the most potential in the products will be still the smartphones, tablet, and also like healthcare products. And EV, of course, EV is a very potential areas for working on. So all the companies, or all the sectors in these area or supply chain is going to be very potential for the future collaboration between Taiwan and India. And so how can we do about that? Let me say that if I, across the key phases of the semiconductor production value chain, I think India's strength lies in the IC designing. And as I know, India is the home to the, I would say, semiconductor design and software companies. And I would say account for around 20% of the world's design workforce. in the world, basically. So I think IC collaboration is definitely going to be very potential, and Taiwanese company will be definitely looking into the cooperation in this area. And as I mentioned earlier, there are Taiwanese have many IC manufacturers. We have 80% into IC designing, which means that there's a big potential and big demand for the Taiwanese company to collaborate in this. So one is IC design, and of course the other one is the chips, the equipment. If you see India, if you're going into the path of building up the semiconductor ecosystem, the update, the latest equipment is also very important. And as you know, Taiwan vendors are able to supply the equipment for, I would say, packaging, processing, testing, or even the components for the wafer production equipment. So, and as you know, there are many Taiwanese companies into IC manufacturing, which makes Taiwan a very experimental site for the latest equipment. So for this, Taiwan can definitely help or upgrade the Indian equipment suppliers on the latest changes or the technology on the equipment for the semiconductor industry. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Amiya, let me segue to you and ask you a very pointed question. As an industry body in India, which is totally focused on the Indo-US relations, how do you chronicle the last couple of years in this space?
Thank you for that. So I think, as I had mentioned earlier, India has made a tremendous effort to capitalize on the opportunity that geopolitics and has created. And I think some key milestones need to be appreciated. I'm sure they've been touched upon during the course of the day, but just the announcement of the semiconductor incentives and the fact that they looked at the ecosystem, including the design-linked incentive, the creation of a dedicated semiconductor mission, the Semiconductor India Future Design Program, and how they're trying to encourage next-generation startups in the design ecosystem. And I think even the creation of a smart city like Dholera, or the development of it, which will and the attempt to attract strategic semiconductor investments, they're all indications that the needle is moving in the right direction. And the recent slew of investments from a number of our member companies, including Micron, Lam, Applied, Qualcomm, AMD, they're all testament to the fact that investor sentiment is currently positive. Having said that, I think setting up a semiconductor ecosystem is a complex process, so it would be an oversimplification to think that there are no challenges. There definitely are some challenges on the ground. A few of them, examples of a few, of course, are the shortage of semiconductor talent, which is an important gap to bridge as the demand increases globally. Also, some operational challenges we've come across, maybe in customs channels, just for example. And I think if the momentum is there and if we see it heading in the right direction, if the government continues what it's doing currently, which is consulting with industry on a continuing basis, I think policy certainty is really, really important from that perspective. And I think with those two things in mind, we're heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I will take the thread from there, from the industry body perspective of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum back to Mary and possibly ask her, our two governments are forging an important strategic partnership bilaterally, which is very well known. And the semiconductor cooperation is a very key component of this partnership, so to say. So can you talk a bit about the US-India bilateral cooperation on semiconductors? How does that fit into the broader geopolitics? And what is the role of the industry going to be?
Thanks, Anurag. I mean, there's obviously a lot of global dynamics at play. You mentioned geopolitics. That certainly plays a role. I think, the supply chain shortages during the COVID pandemic certainly led to executives and boardrooms really waking up to the need to diversify supply chains. We kind of moved from this mentality of just-in-time supply chains to just-in-case, and the lingo has changed too. You don't hear as much about talk about efficient supply chains. It's now resilient supply chains. We've heard that all day today. And this is obviously a big focus in the bilateral discussions between our two governments. And there's a number of government-to-government work streams that are focused on our industry. Back in the middle of 2022, Prime Minister Modi and President Biden launched this initiative for critical and emerging technologies, and semiconductors was a big focus there. And we've been collaborating as industry as part of that. Not this year, it's 2024 now. Early last year, our two commerce departments signed an MOU for semiconductor innovation cooperation. So lots of work here, and that's all great, but industry really needs to have a seat at the table in those discussions. In fact, I don't see how those cooperative endeavors succeed without industry at the table. And again, on that front, I really want to underscore the great partnership between SIA and IESA in supporting our governments and kind of pushing them in this direction or that direction. One opportunity that I did want to mention, as part of the CHIPS Act, the State Department got $500 million for a fund. It's called the International Technology Security Innovation Fund. And a big chunk of that, $350 million, is targeted to the semiconductor industry. We think that would be a great opportunity for the U.S. and India to deepen their partnership, is to forge a partnership under that ITSE fund. And we've been encouraging our government to hurry up with that. They've already established partnerships with a couple of countries, and we think India is really ripe for that. Just a great way to double down and start to operationalize that partnership and focus on things like workforce development.
Wonderful. So there are many questions in my mind and in everybody's mind, but then I can see the clock and I heard the bell. So having said that, thank you very much for being a wonderful panel, answering a lot of questions, some of them were twisted, but they took out a lot of knowledge and a lot of, and garnered a lot of interest by the audience. And thank you to the entire audience to have be a very patient listener and have a great patient hearing at this hour at 7:30 in the evening. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being on the panel.
Thank you, panel, and thank you, Colonel. May I request Mr. Sanjeev Keskar to kindly come over and give away the mementos. Thank you. I request Ms. Shweta to kindly come and take over the rest of the proceedings for the evening.